is all around us, and sometimes we're just unaware of it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Emily, and today we're counting down our list of the top 10 evil people caught hiding in plain sight. Coming in at number 10 is the Menendez Brothers. On the evening of August 20th, 1989, Jose and Kitty Menendez were standing in the den of their Beverly Hills mansion when their sons Lyle and Eric entered the room and shot them to death. Immediately after the deaths, both brothers remained in the house, expecting the police to respond due to the noise of the gunshots. When the police arrived, the brothers told them that the deaths had occurred while they were out at a movie theater seeing Batman and attending the Taste of LA festival. After the deaths, they started spending millions of dollars from their inheritance. They were even spotted with their courtside tickets to see the Knicks play. Incidentally, a photo of Mark Jackson from that game was used as his 1990 basketball card, and you'll never guess who was in the background. It was the brothers. Now this made people suspicious, and after an alleged confession, the boys were arrested. During the trial, the brothers stated that they committed the crimes out of fear that their father would end their lives after they threatened to expose him for years of sexual, emotional, and physical mistreatment, while the prosecution argued that they did it to inherit their father's multi-million-dollar estate. Both brothers were eventually convicted on 2 counts of first-degree homicide and conspiracy to commit homicide in the penalty phase of the trial. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 9. Philip Chism. Philip Chism was just a freshman when he ended the life of his math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. Colleen was known to go out of her way to help her students and had asked Philip to stay after school. Then on the morning of October 22nd, 2013, the high school's newly installed security camera system showed Philip arriving at school with several bags which contained a box cutter, mask, gloves, and a change of clothing. The school security footage showed Colleen exiting the classroom towards the second floor women's bathroom, and Philip can be seen walking into the hallway looking her way, pulling his hood over his head, and pulling on gloves as he entered the same bathroom. In the bathroom, Philip proceeded to rob Colleen of her credit cards, iPhone, and her underwear before taking advantage and stabbing her 16 times in the neck with the box cutter. He then put her body in a recycling bin and left it behind the school. Now him following her and having her body in the recycling bin was all caught on camera, and it makes me sick. The footage of him walking with the recycling bin looks so normal, you'd never know what he did. Now when police caught him the following morning, Philip had not washed his hands and he still had her blood all over them. He was arrested on February 26, 2016, and he was sentenced to serve at least 40 years in prison. Number 8. Rodney Alcala. In 1978, the dating game show host made history by introducing a man named Rodney Alcala as Bachelor number 1. Now this man won the episode, but the Bachelorette refused to go out with him, citing that he made her uncomfortable. Well, good job she went with her gut, because unknown to the show's producers, Rodney had held a criminal charge of attempted homicide at the time of his television appearance. Now at this time, he had also ended the lives of at least 5 women. His spree began in the 1960s and ended with his capture in the 1970s. 2 years after his appearance on the show, he was sentenced to death for ending the life of Robin Sanso, and he was also suspected of ending the lives of others. Rodney later appealed his sentencing twice, with each appeal returning a verdict of guilty. Sadly, despite these convictions, investigators believe that he may have had even more victims than we know, and it's crazy that he was able to get on TV though, and thank goodness the woman didn't go out with him. Number 7. Joseph James DeAngelo. Joseph James DeAngelo, aka the Golden State Killer, was a former police officer who ended the lives of 13 people, took advantage of 50 people, and had been involved in 120 burglaries in California between 1974 and 1986. He is responsible for at least 3 separate crime sprees throughout the state, each of which spawned a different nickname in the press before it became evident that they were committed by the same person. He was also linked to hundreds of incidents of thefts, burglaries, vandalism, peeping, stalking, and prowling. Now he wasn't arrested until 2018, when DNA tracing from family members on a genealogy site linked him to his crimes. In June 2020, he pleaded guilty to 13 deaths and 13 counts of taking advantage of people. In August of the same year, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now his crimes finally caught up to him, and he probably never would have been caught if it wasn't for his family member using that site. Number 6. Robert Allen Durst. Robert Allen Durst gained attention as the suspect in the unsolved 1982 disappearance of his first wife Kathleen McCormick, the 2000 death of his longtime friend Susan Berman, and the 2001 death of his neighbor Morris Black. Acquitted of ending Morris's life in 2003, Robert did not face significant further legal action until his participation in the 2015 documentary miniseries The Jinx, which led to him being charged with Susan's death. After his interview for the show, he took a bathroom break. His mic was still on, which he didn't know, and in the bathroom he said to himself, "There it is, you're caught, you're right of course, oh I want this, killed them all, of course, I want to do something new, there's nothing new about that, what a disaster, he was right, I was wrong, what the hell did I do?" Now due to this, he was convicted of the death in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. He was charged with Kathleen's disappearance shortly after his sentencing, but died in 2022 before a trial could begin. It's scary that he lied all this time, and also I can't imagine what the sound guy did when he heard this confession, because that is absolutely terrifying. If only Robert did not speak out loud to himself, he might have never been caught. Number 5. Juan David Ortiz. Juan David Ortiz is a former US Border Patrol agent who worked as an intelligence supervisor in Laredo, Texas. In 2018, he was assigned to assist the Texas Rangers in a homicide investigation of 4 women. A few weeks later, when an escaped victim identified him, the Rangers discovered that Juan was the one who was committing the crimes. Just 2 weeks before Juan's arrest, investigators had found the body of a woman with a gunshot wound to the head and wrist. When a second victim was found with similar wounds, it raised suspicions of a serial slayer on the loose. The Texas Rangers then approached Border Control for assistance, and Juan, being an intelligence supervisor, was chosen for the job. Now by the time he was caught, he had committed 2 more homicides, bringing his total number of victims to 4. Number 4. Stephen McDaniel. On June 26, 2011, Stephen McDaniel ended the life of Lauren Gidding. They lived in neighboring apartments and were former classmates at Mercer University. According to Stephen, at 4:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 26, 2011, he used a master key to gain access into Lauren's apartment. Wearing a mask and gloves, he strangled her to death with his hands in her bedroom. The next day, he dismembered her body in the bathroom with a hacksaw. Most of Lauren's remains were discarded in a dumpster on campus. However, the torso was thrown in a trash can outside the apartment complex. Now, on the first day she was announced missing, Stephen played dumb when police asked where she was. On June 30th, 2011, a live TV reporter interviewed Stephen about Lauren, and during it, he was visibly shocked to learn that police had found a section of her body in a nearby dumpster. Had the police cars not blocked this dumpster from being emptied, it's likely that there may have been no indication of her actual fate. Now in 2014, Stephen accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to homicide. His deal required him to describe his account of the crime, and in exchange he would avoid the death penalty. He'll now be eligible for parole in 2041. Number 3. Chris Watts. In the early hours of August 13, 2018, American oil field operator Chris Watts ended the life of his wife Shanann and their 2 daughters. He buried his wife in a shallow grave near an oil storage facility and dumped his daughters' bodies into crude oil tanks. Chris initially maintained his innocence in his family's disappearance, but unfortunately for him, he seemed too calm about the whole ordeal, so they brought him in for an interview. Chris then kept referring to his wife and daughters in the past tense, which is strange because if he is hoping and believing that they're still alive, why would he start talking about them in the past tense? Now on August 15th, he was arrested after admitting to ending his wife's life, and he later admitted to ending the lives of his daughters too. On November 6, 2018, he pleaded guilty to multiple counts of first-degree homicide as part of a plea deal with the death penalty, and was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 3 to be served consecutively. Now as Chris went on to plead guilty to all the deaths, investigators were left without answers as to why he ended the lives of his entire family. Afterwards, investigators were able to speak with Chris in prison, and Chris admitted to ending his wife's life after telling her he didn't love her anymore. Now to make matters worse, Chris said that his daughters were alive and in the car with him as he drove Shanann's body to the burial site. As he told investigators, after burying Shanann, he smothered his youngest daughter and deposited her body in a tank, all while his other daughter was watching, and he then did the same thing to her. Number 2, Adam Strong. 2 young women had their lives ended and dismembered by Adam Strong almost a decade apart. It was plumbers working on Adam's home that made the gruesome discovery. They called the cops after finding a flesh-like substance in the pipes. Yeah, he put the remains down his sink and was shocked when the pipes eventually got clogged. When cops knocked on Adam's door, he reportedly told them, "Okay, you got me, the jig's up, it's a body. If you want to recover the rest of her, it's in my freezer." Now, in his interrogation video, he's very proud of what he's done and makes sure the police have all the evidence they need against him. He says, "How much of her body did you get back? Obviously the entire skeletal structure, right? And how much were you able to pull out of the pipes?" He literally admitted to everything. Now, the way he's so nonchalant and even excited about this is truly frightening, and the fact that he may have even been able to get away with it is terrifying. And coming in at number 1 is Samuel Little. Samuel Little was the most prolific serial slayer in American history with 60 confirmed victims, although police believe that there are more victims. By the time of his death in 2020, Samuel had confessed to ending the lives of 93 people between 1970 and 2005. Now, most of the slayings took place in Florida and Southern California. Almost all of his victims were women, many of them prostitutes, drug addicts, or poor people living on the edges of society. They were individuals that he said he believed would leave few people behind to look for them, and not much evidence for police to follow. Indeed, local authorities in states across the country initially classified many of the deaths as accidents, drug overdoses, or the result of an unknown cause. He evaded detection by police for decades until he was arrested in California on a narcotics charge in 2012. DNA evidence then linked him to 3 unsolved homicides from the 1980s. He was handed 3 life sentences, 1 for each death, and given no chance of parole. Since then, he's confessed to 93 deaths, which investigators have no reason to doubt he committed. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 evil people caught hiding in plain sight. Who on our list shocked you the most, and did we forget anyone? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I'm your host, Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.